It's very important you understand the effect of depth of field and how focal length affects the depth of field. Now at the moment we are focused on our front little teddy here, and we're on a 24mm lens. A 24mm lens is a wide angle lens. A wide angle lens has a short focal length. And as you can see now, that because we're on a wide angle lens, 24mm, the whole picture appears to be in focus. So now we have changed to a 70mm lens, which is a narrow angle lens. The longer the focal length of the lens, the narrower is the angle of view. So we're now on a 70mm lens. And we are focused on little Ted. As you can now see, that big Ted at the back is out of focus because we've gone to a longer focal length lens, a 70mm lens, which is a long lens, and that has reduced our depth of field. So now we move the camera about 20 centimeters away from little Ted, and we are focused on little Ted. With this particular lens, this is what we refer to as the minimum object distance, which is the nearest distance the lens can actually focus. The better the lens, normally the smallest the MOD is. And as you can see now, little Ted is in focus and big Ted is out of focus. But also notice the change in perspective, because now big Ted appears to be very similar size or smaller as little Ted. It's because we've moved the camera and so we have changed perspective. So now we've gone to a 40mm lens, and you can see now how our depth of field has decreased even more, and big Ted now is really out of focus. And now we're going to bring big Ted right up close to little Ted just to show you how shallow depth of field. And you can see I can almost bring big Ted up close to little Ted and before we get them both in focus. If we now go back to a wider shot, we can actually see how close they actually are. So now you can see physically how close I have brought big Ted to little Ted. So you actually see how shallow that depth of field actually was. So if you want a very shallow depth of field, it's minimum distance and a longish focal length lens, which will really reduce your depth of field.